The impossible result star. Ethan Blake stared at the holographic display floating above his laboratory desk, his coffee growing cold as the numbers refused to make sense. The genetic sequencer had been running diagnostic tests on blood samples, from the morning's routine health screenings, but one result had stopped him dead in his tracks. The sample belonged to a young girl named Zara Vex, a recent arrival at the research station orbiting Europa. According to her medical files, she was human, born on Mars Colony 7, but the genetic markers told a different story entirely. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes and ran the analysis again. The machine hummed softly, its blue lights pulsing as it worked through the complex genetic code, and the results appeared. They were identical to the first scan. Possible, but identical. The girl's DNA showed clear human ancestry on the maternal side, but the paternal genetic signature was unlike anything in the human genome database. More disturbing still, when Ethan cross-referenced the paternal markers with his own genetic profile stored in the station's medical records. The match was 97.8%, according to the computer. He was Zara Vex's biological father. Ethan had never met the girl. He had never been to Mars Colony 7. In fact, he had spent the last 15 years working exclusively in deep space research stations, studying alien artifacts and technologies recovered from distant worlds. The idea that he could have fathered a child was absurd, yet the evidence stared back at him from the glowing display. A disturbing pattern Professor Nina Torres found. Ethan still hunched over his workstation when she arrived for the evening shift. The laboratory was dim except for the soft glow of the genetic analyzer and the scattered data. Screens showing Ethan's frantic research. "Working late again?" Nina asked, setting down her own coffee and pulling up a chair beside him. She was a stern woman in her 50s, with graying hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. As the research director of Station Prometheus, she had overseen hundreds of genetic studies, but she had never seen Ethan look so troubled. "Nina, I need you to look at something," Ethan said without preamble. He gestured to the display showing Zara's genetic profile alongside his own. "Tell me what you see." Nina leaned forward, her scientific mind immediately engaging with the data. Her expression shifted from curiosity to confusion to alarm as she absorbed the implications. "This can't be right," she murmured, pulling up additional screens to verify the results. "You've never had children, Ethan. Your psychological profile and medical history are clear on that point." "That's what I thought too," Ethan replied grimly. "But I've run this test 6 times. The results are consistent. According to our equipment, I am somehow the biological father of a girl I've never met." Nina was quiet for a long moment, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface as she dug deeper into the genetic data. When she spoke again, her voice was carefully controlled. "Ethan, look at this." She highlighted a section of Zara's genetic code that seemed to shimmer with an unusual pattern. "These sequences don't match anything in our human genome database. They're not just unknown, they're structured differently, almost like they were designed rather than evolved." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Designed? You mean artificially created?" "I mean, this girl isn't entirely human," Nina said quietly. "Part of her genetic code appears to be of extraterrestrial origin. And if you're truly her father, then someone has been conducting genetic experiments using your DNA without your knowledge or consent." The girl from Mars, Zara Vex, sat in the station's observation lounge, watching Europa's ice-covered surface rotate slowly beneath them. She was 17 years old, with unusual violet eyes and dark hair that seemed to catch light in strange ways. To most observers, she appeared to be a typical human teenager, perhaps a bit more thoughtful and reserved than others her age. But Zara knew she was different. Out. She had always known. The dreams had started when she was 12. Visions of strange worlds with purple skies and crystalline cities. Images of beings with elongated limbs and luminous skin who spoke in musical tones she somehow understood. And always, always, the feeling that she was searching for something or someone important. Her adoptive parents on Mars had been kind but distant, never quite able to explain why she had been found as an infant in the ruins of an abandoned research facility. The official records listed her parents as unknown, casualties of a terrorist attack that had destroyed the lab. But Zara had never believed that story now. Board Station Prometheus, for what she had been told, was a routine educational exchange program. She felt closer to the truth than ever before. The station specialized in xenobiology and alien artifact research. It was here, she believed, that she would finally find answers about her origins. She didn't notice Dr. Ethan Blake enter the observation lounge, but she felt his presence immediately. A strange tingling sensation spread through her mind, and suddenly the dreams were more vivid than they had ever been while she was awake. Ethan approached cautiously, unsure how to begin a conversation that would inevitably lead to questions. Neither of them were prepared to answer. But as he drew closer, he felt an odd sensation, as if his thoughts were resonating with something else. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Are you Zara Vex?" The girl turned, and when their eyes met, both felt a jolt of recognition that defied logic. Ethan saw his own eyes reflected in her face, but also something else, something alien and beautiful that made his breath catch. "You're Dr. Blake," Zara said, though she had never seen his photograph. "I've been dreaming about you." The awakening, the next few hours passed in a blur of medical tests, genetic scans, and increasingly frantic communications with Earth. Nina Torres had contacted the highest levels of both the Colonial Authority and the Xenobiology Council. But the responses were troubling. Rather than surprise or concern, the officials seemed to be expecting this discovery. Ethan and Zara found themselves in the station's secure medical bay, surrounded by sophisticated scanning equipment that probed every aspect of their biology. The results confirmed what they had already begun to suspect. Their connection went far beyond simple genetics. "Your neural patterns are synchronized," Nina explained, studying the brain scans with growing amazement. "It's as if you share a quantum entanglement at the cellular level. When one of you experiences strong emotions or memories, the other responds automatically." Zara nodded slowly. "That explains the dreams. I've been seeing fragments of your life, Dr. Blake. Your research, your discoveries, your work with alien technologies." Ethan felt a cold dread settling in his stomach. "Zara, my work is classified at the highest levels. If you've been accessing my memories, then someone has created a connection between us that could be used for espionage or worse." Before either could respond, the medical bay's doors hissed open to admit a tall man in military uniform. His name, tag read Reed J, and his expression was grim. "Dr. Blake, Ms. Vex," he said formally. "I'm Security Officer Jackson Reed. I'm afraid I need to escort you both to a secure briefing room. There are some things about your situation that require immediate clarification." As they walked through the station's corridors, Ethan noticed that the usual bustle of scientific activity had been replaced by an almost military efficiency. Security personnel were stationed at regular intervals, and several laboratories appeared to have been sealed. "Officer Reed," Ethan asked carefully, "exactly what kind of clarification are we talking about?" Jackson Reed paused at the entrance to a heavily secured conference room, the kind that determines whether this station experiences a peaceful resolution to your situation, or whether we find ourselves at the center of the first interstellar war in human history. The doors opened to reveal a woman unlike any Ethan had ever seen. She was tall and graceful, with the basic humanoid structure, but skin that seemed to shift between blue and silver depending on the angle of the light. Her eyes were large and luminous, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate in the bones. "Dr. Blake," she said, rising from her seat with fluid grace, "I am Kira Knox, ambassador from the Celestial Federation. I have traveled a very long way to meet you and your daughter." Ethan felt the world tilt around him. "My daughter?" Kira Knox replied, her alien features showing what might have been sympathy, though perhaps it would be more accurate to say our daughter. "You see, Dr. Blake, 17 years ago, your genetic material was combined with mine as part of a secret project designed to create a bridge between our species. Zara is the result of that union, and her existence has just triggered a series of events that will change both our civilizations forever." Zara stepped forward, her violet eyes bright with sudden understanding. "The dreams," she whispered. "They weren't just about Dr. Blake. They were about you, too. About a world of crystal cities and purple skies. Kira Knox smiled, and for the first time since entering the room, she looked genuinely happy. "Welcome home, my daughter, though I fear our reunion comes at a most dangerous time." As if summoned by her words, alarms began to sound throughout the station, and the lights dimmed to emergency illumination. Through the conference room's viewports, they could see ships approaching, dozens of them, some bearing the insignia of Earth's colonial navy, and others displaying symbols none of the humans recognized. The galaxy, it seemed, had been waiting for this moment for 17 years, and now that it had arrived, there would be no turning back. The hidden facility, the emergency sirens continued to wail as Security Officer Jackson Reed led the group through corridors that Ethan had never seen before. Hidden passages revealed themselves behind false walls, leading deeper into Station Prometheus than the official blueprint suggested possible. "How long has this been going on?" Ethan demanded as they hurried through the dimly lit tunnels. "How long have you been lying to everyone about what this station really is?" Jackson glanced back, his expression grim. 17 years, Dr. Blake. Ever since the first alien contact was made, not through peaceful exploration, as the public believes, but through the discovery of a crashed vessel on Titan. Everything you thought you knew about your research, about this station, about humanity's place in the galaxy, has been carefully constructed to hide the truth. They emerged into a vast underground chamber filled with technology that clearly wasn't of human origin. Crystalline structures pulsed with internal light, their surfaces covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as Ethan watched. At the center of the room stood a massive cylindrical device that hummed with barely contained energy. Zara gasped, her hand flying to her temple as images flooded her mind. "I know this place. I've seen it in my dreams, but it was different, newer." Ambassador Kira Knox moved to one of the crystal consoles, her fingers dancing across its surface with practiced ease. "This is a genetic synthesis laboratory," she explained, her voice heavy with old pain. 17 years ago, representatives from my people and yours agreed to a secret project. We would combine our genetic material to create children who could serve as bridges between our species." "Without anyone's consent," Ethan said angrily. "You stole my genetic material and created a child without my knowledge." "The decision was made at the highest levels of both governments," Jackson interjected. "Your DNA was selected because of your unique compatibility with alien genetic structures. You've always wondered why you were so successful at interfacing with extraterrestrial technology, haven't you? It's because you were already partially altered." The revelation hit Ethan like a physical blow. He staggered backward, his mind reeling as pieces of his life suddenly made terrible sense. His unusual intuition when working with alien artifacts, his ability to understand alien technologies that baffled other scientists, the strange dreams he'd had since childhood of stars and distant worlds. "You experimented on me too," he whispered. "Your grandfather was one of the first test subjects," Kira Knox said gently. "Minor genetic modifications designed to make humans more compatible with our technology. The changes were subtle, passed down through generations. You were chosen not just for your scientific brilliance, but because your family line had been prepared for this moment for over a century." The conspiracy unravels. Professor Nina Torres appeared on one of the crystal displays, her image transmitted. From the station's main laboratory, her face was pale, and behind her, Ethan could see other scientists working frantically at their stations. "Ethan, thank God you're safe," she said breathlessly. "I've been analyzing the data from Zara's genetic scan, and what I've found is terrifying. She's not the only one. There are dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Human-alien hybrids scattered across the colonies, all roughly the same age." "An entire generation," Kira Knox confirmed sadly. "We called them the Bridge Children. They were meant to be ambassadors, beings who could understand both species and help us navigate the complexities of first contact. But something went wrong." On the display, Nina pulled up a series of genetic profiles. Each showed the same impossible combination of human and alien DNA, but with subtle variations. "The project was sabotaged," she continued. "Someone introduced a viral modification into the genetic templates. These children aren't just bridges between species, they're weapons. Zara stepped forward, her violet eyes wide with alarm. What kind of weapons? Psychic amplifiers, Jackson answered grimly. Each of you has the ability to influence the thoughts and emotions of others. In small numbers, it's barely noticeable. But if enough of you were gathered together and properly directed, you could potentially control the minds of entire populations. The implications were staggering. An army of hybrid children, each one capable of mental manipulation, scattered across human space and waiting for activation. It was the perfect setup for conquest, whether by aliens seeking to control humanity or by humans planning to turn the weapons against their creators. Who did this? Ethan demanded. Who sabotaged the project? Before anyone could answer, new alarms began sounding, these ones different from the emergency signals they'd been hearing. The lights in the chamber shifted to a deep red, and automated voices began speaking in both human languages and the melodic tones of Kira's people. Incoming. Vessels detected. Multiple species. Armed. Translation came through clearly, despite the alien syntax. Defensive positions authorized. Prepare for possible hostile contact. Through the chamber's observation windows, they could see space filling with ships. Human vessels from a dozen different colonies, their hulls bristling with weapons. Alien. Craft of designs Ethan had never imagined, some appearing to be grown rather than built, others that seemed to bend light around themselves like living shadows. They're here for her, Kiranok said, moving protectively toward Zara. Both sides. The humans want to study her, to replicate the genetic modifications and create an army. My people want to eliminate her, to prevent the weapons from ever being used against us. And the saboteurs, Ethan asked. They want to activate all the bridge children at once, Jackson replied, checking his weapons and communications equipment. Create chaos between our species so they can step in and claim control of both civilizations. The race against time as. The ships continued to gather outside the station. Ethan found himself facing an impossible choice. On one side, the human military wanted to turn his daughter into a weapon. On the other, the aliens wanted to eliminate her to prevent that from happening. And somewhere in the shadows, unknown forces were manipulating both sides toward a war that would benefit only them. There's a third option, Zara said suddenly, her voice carrying a new authority that hadn't been there before. The bridge children were meant to bring peace between our species. What if we actually did that? She moved to the central control console, her hands hovering over the crystalline interface. I can feel them, the others like me. They're scattered across dozens of worlds, but they're all connected through the same quantum entanglement that links me to Dr. Blake. If I can reach them, if I can help them understand what they really are, maybe we can prevent this war instead of causing it. It's too dangerous, Kira protested. The psychic resonance could kill you, or worse, could activate the weapon programming and turn you all into mindless tools of whoever designed the sabotage. Then we'd better find out who that is, Ethan said grimly. He pulled up the genetic analysis data, cross-referencing it with the station's personnel records and communication logs. Nina, you said the sabotage was introduced into the genetic templates. Can you trace the source? On the display, Nina's fingers flew over her keyboard. I'm trying, but the modifications are incredibly sophisticated. Whoever did this had access to the highest levels of both human and alien genetic science. They would need to be someone trusted by both sides, someone with the authority to modify the project without oversight. The answer came not from the computer analysis, but from Jackson Reed, whose face had gone pale as he listened to a communication through his earpiece. It was Torres, he said quietly. Nina Torres. She's been working for a third faction, a group that calls itself the Synthesis Collective. They believe that the only way to prevent war between humans and aliens is to create a new species that can dominate both. On the display, Nina's image flickered and then resolved into something subtly different. Her eyes held a coldness that hadn't been there before, and when she smiled, it was with the satisfaction of someone whose long-planned scheme was finally coming to fruition. Hello, Ethan, she said, her voice carrying new harmonics that suggested technological enhancement. I suppose it's time you learned the truth about what you and your daughter really are. The chamber's security systems activated, sealing all exits as Nina's true plan began to unfold. Outside, the gathering fleets moved into attack positions, their crews unaware that they were dancing to the tune of a puppet master, who saw both species as raw material for her vision of galactic unity. And in the center of it all, Ethan and Zara faced the realization that their connection was more than just genetic. It was the key to either saving two civilizations or watching them destroy each other in a war that had been orchestrated from the very beginning. The bridge. Children were awakening across the galaxy, their psychic abilities resonating through quantum space, like a song that could heal or destroy depending on who conducted the chorus. The question was whether Ethan and Zara could reach them first, or whether Nina Torres and her synthesis collective would turn them into the instruments of conquest they had always been intended to be. The synthesis collective Nina Torres image on the display screen began to shift and distort, revealing layers of technological integration that made Ethan's skin crawl. What he had thought was his trusted colleague was revealed to be something far more sinister. A hybrid of human consciousness and alien technology that had been manipulating events for decades. "You look shocked, Ethan," Nina said, her voice now carrying multiple harmonics that suggested she was speaking from several locations simultaneously. Surely a brilliant scientist like yourself suspected that the coincidences were too convenient. The perfect genetic match, the successful alien technology integration, your daughter's convenient arrival at the exact moment when both fleets would be in position. Zara stepped closer to the central console, her hands glowing with a soft violet light as she attempted to interface with the alien systems. She's been controlling everything. The dreams, the genetic resonance, even our meeting. We're not father and daughter by accident. We're components in a machine she's been building for 17 years. Components, yes, Nina agreed, her image now clearly showing the cybernetic implants that covered half her skull, but willing ones, I hope. You see, the synthesis collective doesn't believe in conquest through force. We believe in evolution through unity. Humanity and the alien species have reached an evolutionary dead end separately. Together, guided by beings like myself who have transcended the limitations of single-species thinking, we can become something greater. Jackson Reed was working frantically at a secondary console, trying to restore control of the station's systems. She's locked us out of everything. Communications, life support, defensive systems. We're trapped while her plan unfolds. Ambassador Kira Knox moved to another crystal interface, her alien physiology allowing her to access systems that were beyond human capability. The bridge children are responding to an activation signal. I can sense their confusion and fear as their abilities suddenly awaken. Many of them don't even know what they are. Through the chamber's viewports, the space around Station Prometheus had become a powder keg. Human ships faced off against alien vessels, both sides demanding the surrender of the station and its occupants. Smaller craft moved between the fleets, carrying negotiators and demands that grew more aggressive with each passing hour. "Nina, listen to me," Ethan said, trying to reach whatever remained of the woman he had worked beside for years. "You're talking about forcing evolution on entire species? That's not progress. It's genocide. You're going to destroy the very things you claim to want to preserve." "Destruction is sometimes necessary for creation," Nina replied coldly. "The dinosaurs had to die for mammals to flourish. Single-species civilizations must end for the galactic community to be born. The bridge children are the first step, but they're not the last. Once they've established control over their respective populations, the real work can begin." The children's awakening across the galaxy. Young people who had grown up thinking they were ordinary humans suddenly found themselves experiencing impossible sensations. On Mars Colony 7, a boy named David Chen watched in amazement as his emotions began affecting the behavior of everyone around him. On the mining station orbiting Alpha Centauri, a girl named Rachel Storm discovered she could hear the thoughts of her friends and family. Zara felt each awakening like a note in a vast cosmic symphony, her consciousness expanding to encompass dozens, then hundreds of minds scattered across known space. "They're scared," she told the others in the chamber. "They don't understand what's happening to them." Nina's signal is trying to override their free will, to turn them into puppets. Can you resist it? Ethan asked, moving to support his daughter, as the psychic strain began to take its toll. Not alone, Zara replied, violet energy crackling around her hands as she fought to maintain her individuality against the collective signal. But if I can reach them, if I can help them, understand that they have a choice, maybe we can turn this weapon into something else. Kira Knox looked up from her console, her luminous eyes bright with sudden hope. The quantum entanglement network isn't just for control. It's a communication system. If Zara can establish her own signal, she could coordinate with the other bridge children to resist the synthesis collective. Do it, Ethan said without hesitation. I'll help however I can. The psychic feedback could kill you both, Jackson warned, still working to break through Nina's security lockdowns. The human nervous system wasn't designed to handle that kind of quantum resonance. Then we'd better succeed on the first try, Zara replied grimly. She pressed her hands against the central crystal, and immediately the chamber filled with brilliant, violet light. Ethan placed his hands over hers, feeling the alien technology responding to the genetic modifications in his bloodline. Together they reached out across space and time, their consciousness expanding to touch the minds of children who had never known they were part of something larger. The battle for hearts and minds, what followed, was a war fought not with weapons or ships, but with ideas and emotions transmitted faster than light through quantum space. Nina Torres and her synthesis collective had spent years preparing to activate their network of bridge children, programming them with loyalty to their vision of enforced unity. But Zara and Ethan offered something different: choice, one by one. The awakening hybrids felt the difference between the cold compulsion of Nina's signal and the warm invitation of Zara's message. They were given the truth about their origins, about the experiments that had created them, and about the three paths that lay before them. They could serve the synthesis collective, becoming tools of forced evolution that would subjugate both human and alien civilizations. They could be destroyed by the military forces gathering around Station Prometheus, eliminated as threats to galactic peace. Or they could choose a third option, becoming bridges in the truest sense, using their unique abilities to facilitate understanding rather than control. The choice was not easy. Many of the bridge children were angry about the deception that had shaped their lives, furious that they had been created as weapons without their consent. Others were terrified of their newfound abilities, afraid of accidentally harming the people they loved. But as Zara's message spread through the network, carrying with it the genuine love and acceptance she felt from Ethan and Kira, a new pattern began to emerge. The bridge children started connecting with each other directly, sharing their experiences and fears, forming a true community based on mutual support rather than external control. It's working, Kira breathed, watching the quantum resonance patterns shift on her displays. They're rejecting the collective programming and forming their own network. Nina Torres' image flickered with rage as her carefully laid plans began to unravel. You don't understand what you're doing. Without guidance, without control, they'll tear both civilizations apart. Their abilities are too powerful for primitive emotional responses like love and compassion. You're wrong, Ethan said firmly, feeling his daughter's strength flowing through their connection. Love and compassion aren't primitive. They're the most advanced technologies in the universe. They're what separates civilization from mere conquest. The new alliance, as the bridge children across the galaxy made their choice, the standoff around Station Prometheus began to shift. Human and alien commanders who had been preparing for battle suddenly found their bridge children crew members, reaching out to them not with compulsion or control, but with empathy and understanding. For the first time, humans could feel what it was like to experience the universe through alien senses. Aliens could understand the passionate intensity of human emotions. The barriers between species didn't disappear, but they became permeable, allowing for true communication rather than mere translation. Admiral Sarah Cross of the Earth Colonial Navy found herself in telepathic contact with Fleet Commander Thane of the Celestial Federation, mediated by the bridge child serving on her ship. Instead of seeing each other as threats, they began to understand the fears and hopes that had driven both species to this confrontation. The Synthesis Collective is still out there, Admiral Cross transmitted through the new communication network. Nina Torres and her followers won't give up just because their first plan failed? Then we work together to stop them, Commander. Thane replied, his alien concepts translating smoothly through the bridge children's psychic interface. These young ones have shown us that unity doesn't require the sacrifice of diversity. We can be stronger together while remaining true to ourselves. In the chamber beneath Station Prometheus, Nina Torres's image began to fade as her connection to the quantum network weakened. This isn't over, she warned. The collective has been preparing for this contingency. We have other weapons, other plans. Your naive belief in cooperation will be your downfall. Maybe, Zara replied, her violet eyes now bright with confidence instead of fear. But at least we'll face whatever comes as family. The bridge forward 6 months later, Station Prometheus had been transformed from a secret research facility into the first true embassy between human and alien civilizations. The bridge children, no longer scattered and isolated, had become exactly what their name suggested: living connections between species that had once seen each other as incomprehensible threats. Ethan stood in the observation lounge where he had first met Zara, watching ships from a dozen different species docked peacefully at the expanded station. His daughter was beside him, now serving as the first ambassador of bridge relations, helping to negotiate the complex agreements that would govern interspecies cooperation. Do you ever regret it? She asked quietly. Learning the truth about what we are, about how we came to be, Ethan considered the question carefully. The knowledge that his entire life had been shaped by genetic manipulation and long-term planning could have been devastating. Instead, he found himself grateful for the strange path that had led him to this moment. I regret the deception, he said finally. I regret that choices were made for us without our consent. But I don't regret you, Zara, and I don't regret what we've accomplished together. Kira Knox approached them, her alien features now familiar and welcome, rather than strange and threatening. The Council has approved the establishment of 12 more embassy stations throughout both territories. Each one will be staffed by bridge children and their families, human and alien alike. And the Synthesis Collective? Ethan asked. Still out there, Kira admitted. Still believing that forced unity is preferable to chosen cooperation, but they're no longer operating in secret. The galaxy knows about them now, and both our species are watching for their influence. Through the observation lounge's massive windows, a new ship approached the station, its design unlike anything they had seen before. It bore elements of both human and alien technology, but integrated in ways that suggested natural evolution rather than forced synthesis. The first generation of true collaboration, Zara observed with satisfaction. Ships designed by mixed crews, using the best ideas from both species. As the ship docked and its crew began to disembark, Ethan saw humans and aliens working side by side, not because they had been compelled to do so, but because they had chosen cooperation over conflict. It wasn't the artificial unity that Nina Torres had envisioned, but something far more valuable: authentic partnership based on mutual respect and understanding. The bridge children had succeeded in their true mission, not as weapons of conquest or tools of control, but as living proof that differences could be strengths rather than weaknesses. They had shown the galaxy that the future belonged not to any single species, but to all of them working together toward common goals while celebrating their unique perspectives. And in the quiet moments between diplomatic meetings and cultural exchanges, Ethan and Zara continued to build the relationship that had started with an impossible genetic scan and grown into something that would reshape the galaxy forever. They were father and daughter, human and hybrid, bridges between worlds, and architects of a future that neither species could have achieved alone. The stars had never looked more welcoming.